You check your phone. Someone is at a party you weren't invited to. A group of friends went somewhere without you. And somewhere in your chest, something tightens. A low, dull ache. A pull you can't name and can't explain. You tell yourself it's nothing. You put the phone down, but 30 seconds later, you pick it up again. That feeling has a name. Everyone knows it. What no one has told you is where it actually came from. Because FOMO is not a modern problem. It is not a social media problem. It is not even a human problem in the way you think it is. It is a survival mechanism. It is ancient, biological, and running inside your brain right now like a program that was never meant to be turned off. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why your brain invented it, and why, no matter how hard you try, you cannot logic your way out of it.
But to understand FOMO, you first need to understand something that most people have never thought about. The most dangerous thing your ancestor could experience was not a lion, it was not a flood, it was not a famine. It was something far quieter, far slower, and far more inevitable: being left out.
Go back, not 50 years, not 500. Go back 200,000 years. Your ancestor is not the rugged lone survivor you might picture. They are not thriving alone in the wilderness, living off the land, strong and independent. That image is a fantasy. The reality is almost the opposite. A single human cut off from the group was one of the most vulnerable creatures on the planet. No claws, no fangs, no meaningful speed, no thick skin, no night vision. Alone, your ancestor had almost no survival advantages at all. The human body is not built for solitude. It is built for cooperation. And cooperation requires a group, which means the group was not optional. The group was the difference between life and death every single day.
This is the context your brain was built inside, and it changes everything.
The evolutionary anthropologist Robin Dunbar spent decades trying to understand how human social groups actually work. What he found is one of the most quietly important discoveries in all of human science. Dunbar showed that our ancestors lived in tight, stable bands of roughly 50 to 150 individuals. Not 10, not 1,000, between 50 and 150. And inside that band, everything that mattered about survival was social. Who trusted you? Who would share food with you when the hunt failed? Who would warn you when something moved in the dark outside the camp? Who would fight beside you if another group came? Who would help raise your children? Your standing inside that group was not a social nicety. It was a survival variable, as real and as measurable as how fast you could run.
And here is the part that changes how you see everything else. The individuals who noticed when they were drifting toward the edges of the group, who felt something go wrong when they weren't included, those individuals acted. They reestablished bonds, they repaired relationships, they found their way back inside the circle before it was too late. The individuals who didn't notice, who felt nothing when they were left out, drifted further. And in that world, drifting far enough meant dying.
Your brain did not miss that lesson. It built an alarm system to make sure you never would.
Now here is where the science gets strange, and I want you to really pay attention to this part because it is going to change how you understand every uncomfortable feeling you have ever had about being left out.
The neuroscientist Naomi Eisenberger ran an experiment that should have been boring. Participants lay inside a brain scanner and played a simple computer game, a virtual ball toss with two other players. Except the other players were not real people. They were a computer program. At a certain point in the game, the other player stopped throwing the ball to the participant. The participant was excluded from a game with a computer that lasted a few minutes and meant absolutely nothing. And what appeared on the brain scan was extraordinary. The regions of the brain that activated during this exclusion were not the social regions, not the reasoning regions. They were the pain regions, the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, the anterior insula, the same neural circuits that fire when you burn your hand, when you break a bone, when you experience physical injury. The brain did not distinguish between physical pain and social exclusion. Both registered as damage. Both triggered the same alarm.
Think about what that means. Your brain treats being left out as an injury, not metaphorically, neurologically. The tightening in your chest when you see a photo of people having fun without you is not an emotional overreaction. It is a pain signal running through the same ancient wiring that once told your ancestor something is wrong. You are at risk. Fix this now.
But FOMO is not just about pain. There is a second mechanism underneath it that almost no one talks about, and this one is even more important.
The psychologist Mark Leary developed what he calls sociometer theory. The idea begins with a question most people have never thought to ask. What is self-esteem actually for? The common answer is that self-esteem is about how you feel about yourself, your sense of worth, your confidence. But Leary argues this is completely wrong. Self-esteem, he says, is a measurement instrument, a gauge, a meter. And what it is measuring in real time at every moment is your standing in the social group around you. When your standing is high, when people include you, trust you, choose you, the meter reads high. You feel confident, grounded, at ease. When your standing drops, when people exclude you, overlook you, leave you out, the meter sounds an alarm. That alarm is the feeling of anxiety, of inadequacy, of missing out. It exists not to punish you, it exists to motivate you. In other words, FOMO is a warning light, not a flaw, not a weakness, not a side effect of spending too much time on your phone. It is a precisely engineered biological signal designed by 200,000 years of evolutionary pressure to keep you connected to the group that kept you alive. The problem is not that the system exists. The system is extraordinary. The problem is the world the system now has to operate in. Because here is what your ancient alarm system was designed to track. 50 to 150 people, a stable band of individuals you saw every day, whose moods and loyalties and alliances shifted slowly in a world where genuine social events, a feast, a ceremony, happened occasionally. When the signal fired, it was responding to something real, something that mattered, something where being excluded actually had consequences. And when the situation resolved, when you were back inside the circle, back at the fire, back in the group, the signal stopped. The alarm went off, and then it went quiet. Now look at what that same system is operating inside today. Your phone shows you a continuous, infinite, algorithmically curated stream of social events you are not attending. Parties you were not invited to, trips you did not take, dinners, concerts, holidays, gatherings, celebrations, all of them photographed at their most vivid and most beautiful, stripped of every ordinary or difficult moment and pushed directly into your eyes at every spare moment of your day. The signal fires and fires and fires because the alarm cannot tell the difference between a real exclusion that matters and a stranger's Instagram story. Both look the same to the part of your brain that evolved before photographs existed. And unlike the ancient world where the exclusion resolved, where you eventually found your way back inside the group, social media never resolves. There is always another story, another event, another thing you were not part of. The alarm never stops. This is what makes modern FOMO so exhausting. It is not that you have become weaker or more anxious than your ancestors. It is that you are running a system with a finite capacity for sustained alarm in an environment that was engineered to trigger that alarm without end. The signal was designed to fire occasionally and then stop. It is now firing constantly. That is not a character flaw. That is a system being operated outside the conditions it was built for. But there is something else Dunbar found that adds one more layer to this. Something that explains why FOMO doesn't just make you feel bad about missing an event, it makes you feel like something is slipping away, like the people are drifting, like the connection is thinning. Humans, Dunbar discovered, are unique among primates in the complexity of the social tracking they do. We don't just monitor our own relationships, we track relationships between other people. We notice who is spending time with whom, whose alliance is shifting, who is moving closer to whom and further from us. We are, in Dunbar's framework, obsessive social accountants. Every interaction we witness between other people is logged and interpreted for what it might mean for our own position in the web. This is why seeing a photo of your friends doing something without you doesn't just feel like you missed a nice evening. It feels like information, like a data point, like something changed while you weren't looking. Because in the ancestral world, it would have been exactly that. And now you understand why knowing all of this does not make FOMO stop. You can understand the entire mechanism. You can read Eisenberger and Leary and Dunbar. You can walk away from this video with a complete map of exactly where FOMO comes from and exactly why it does what it does. And tonight, when you pick up your phone and see something you weren't part of, the tightening will still come. Because the system that generates that tightening is not the part of your brain that processes information and draws conclusions. It is something older than that. Something faster, something that existed long before language, long before the capacity for abstract thought, long before you had the ability to tell yourself that it doesn't matter. It runs underneath those things, and it doesn't wait for your permission. This matters because of what it means for how you relate to the feeling. Most people experience FOMO and immediately try to escape it. They pick up the phone to check again, they make a plan so they feel included, they tell themselves a story about why the thing they missed wasn't worth attending anyway. All of these responses are attempts to stop the alarm by answering it, by telling the system, I am still in the group, I am still connected, the alarm can stop now. And to some extent, they work, because the system does respond to social information. Reconnection, real, warm, genuine reconnection with the people who matter, genuinely quiets the signal. Not because you distracted yourself, because you gave the sociometer what it was measuring for.
What does not work, and what makes the signal worse over time, is substituting the scroll for the connection. Because every time you check the feed in response to the alarm, you are feeding the alarm more inputs to fire at. The more you look at what you are not part of, the more data your social tracking system logs, and the more the alarm recalibrates toward constant vigilance. You are not quieting the signal, you are training it to run louder. Your ancestors did not have this problem. When they felt the alarm, the available response was to walk toward the group, to speak, to repair, to show up. The resolution of the feeling was physical, direct, and social. The world you live in has replaced the group with a feed, replaced showing up with scrolling, and replaced repair with reaction, and then wonders why the alarm never stops. The next time that tightening appears in your chest, you understand what it is now. It is not weakness. It is not immaturity. It is not something that needs to be fixed by seeing a therapist or deleting your apps or becoming the kind of person who simply doesn't care what other people are doing. It is a signal with a 200,000-year history. A signal that kept every one of your ancestors connected to the group, that kept them alive. A signal that worked flawlessly for almost all of human existence and is now trying to do the same job inside a world it was never designed for. You check your phone. Someone is at a party you weren't invited to, and somewhere in your chest, something tightens. That is not you being shallow. That is not you being addicted. That is your brain doing exactly what it was built to do, protecting you the only way it knows how, the same way it protected every ancestor who stayed inside the circle long enough to become you. The feeling is ancient, the phone is new, but the alarm is the same, and now you know exactly why. But there is one more thing, something that almost every video about FOMO misses entirely, and it might be the most important piece of all. There is a reason FOMO feels different depending on who is involved. You've noticed this. Missing a random acquaintances party stings a little, maybe not at all. Missing a close friends gathering, something you thought you'd be invited to, can feel like a physical blow. The alarm does not fire at the same volume for every exclusion. It fires proportionally. And the reason comes back to Dunbar's research on social group structure. Dunbar found that humans don't maintain one social group. They maintain several, nested inside each other like rings. At the very center is your innermost circle, typically just 3 to 5 people. These are the individuals you would call first in a genuine crisis, the people whose loss would feel catastrophic. Your brain dedicates enormous cognitive resources to monitoring these relationships. Then comes a second ring of roughly 15 people, close friends, family members, those whose company you regularly seek out. Then 50, then 150. Each ring is larger and requires less intense emotional tracking, but the system monitors all of them. And the alarm volume it generates when you are excluded scales with how deep inside those rings the individuals sit.
This is why it is not irrational to feel more pain about being left out by a close friend than by a colleague or a distant acquaintance. Your brain is not overreacting. It is accurately representing how much that relationship matters for your social standing. The pain is calibrated. It is telling you something real. This is a bond that costs you something when it frays.
The problem is that social media has done something extraordinary to those rings. It has filled them, or appeared to fill them, with hundreds or thousands of people. People whose posts you see daily, whose lives feel familiar, whose presence in your feed creates the neurological impression of social closeness, even in the complete absence of actual relationship. Your brain's social tracking system evolved to map relationships based on repeated face-to-face contact, shared experience, physical proximity. It did not evolve to distinguish between a genuine close friend and a person you have followed online for 3 years and never spoken to. Both can trigger the alarm, both can register as social information, and both, when they do something without you, can produce that familiar, uncomfortable tightening in your chest. You are running a social tracking system calibrated for a tribe of 150 real people and feeding it a continuous stream of social signals from thousands. The system does not crash. It cannot crash. It evolved in conditions where the signal stream was always finite. Instead, it simply widens its attention, spreads its processing, and runs the alarm for a broader and broader range of inputs at a lower and lower threshold for longer and longer periods of time. And this brings us to the final and strangest insight of all. Genuine connection quiets the alarm in a way that nothing else does. Not because it is more enjoyable than scrolling, not because it is better for your mental health in some abstract, recommended by experts way, but because it gives the sociometer what it is actually measuring for. Real proximity, real reciprocal attention, real signals of inclusion that the system can verify. A genuine conversation with someone who matters to you, a real one, face-to-face or voice-to-voice, sends the sociometer's needle back towards center in a way that no amount of likes, comments, views, or scroll sessions ever can. Because the system is not monitoring your social media engagement, it is monitoring your social bonds. And those bonds are built, maintained, and repaired through a currency that is far older than any screen: showing up. Your ancestors did not curate their social lives. They did not worry about whether their group was watching. They were in the group, constantly, physically, sharing fire and food and risk and rest. The FOMO signal was not a background hum. It was a sharp, occasional alarm that fired when they genuinely needed to repair something and stopped when they did. You inherited that system, and you are trying to run it inside a world that replaced showing up with a feed, that replaced shared fire with a highlight reel, that replaced genuine repair with a thumbs up from someone you've never met. The ancient reason your brain invented FOMO was simple: to keep you alive by keeping you connected, to make sure you never drifted so far from the group that you couldn't find your way back, to fire an alarm so uncomfortable that you could not ignore it, and then quiet that alarm the moment the connection was restored. The system worked. For 200,000 years, it worked without a single update. And it is working now, in you, in this moment, trying to do the same job it always did, in the only world it has ever known how to navigate. The world changed. The system didn't. And somewhere between those two facts is everything you feel every time you check your phone. If this video made something click, hit like. It helps more people find it. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. And subscribe if you want to keep understanding the ancient reasons behind the modern things you feel. Thanks for watching.